The smell of burnt coffee filled the Daily Grind cafe when the shouting started. "Did you just give that away for free?" the manager snapped, his voice slicing through the hum of rain outside. Every customer turned. Behind the counter, Jenna Riley froze, a paper cup trembling in her hand. Her apron was soaked, her eyes wide, but she didn't back down. "He's freezing, Mr. Finch. It's just coffee." The old man in the corner lowered his gaze, ashamed. The room went silent. Then came the words that changed everything. "You're fired." Jenna stood there, humiliated, surrounded by whispers and the hiss of the espresso machine. A single act of kindness had just cost her the only job keeping her and her son afloat. What she didn't know was that the same man she tried to help would return the next morning, in a black limousine with lawyers, and nothing in that cafe would ever be the same again. What happens next? Subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales, where every act of kindness writes its own ending. Rain streaked the windows as the cafe emptied, leaving behind only the low hiss of the espresso machine and the faint buzz of neon from outside. Jenna stood frozen behind the counter, the word fired echoing in her mind like a hammer. Gregory Finch's voice still rang in her ears, sharp, cold, satisfied. The old man sat motionless in the corner, his trembling hands still clutching the cup she'd given him. For a brief moment their eyes met, his full of guilt, hers full of silent dignity. Then she turned away. Outside, the rain came harder, soaking through her thin jacket before she'd even reached the sidewalk. She didn't cry, she couldn't. Her throat locked tight. People walked past her under umbrellas, their eyes sliding over her as if she were invisible. A bus splashed by, throwing muddy water against her legs, and she just kept walking, step after step, through the gray blur of the city. By the time she reached her small apartment, her hands were numb. The clock read 7:48 p.m. She could hear her son's laughter through the thin wall, 6-year-old Cody, coloring with the neighbor who watched him after school. That sound broke her heart in a way Gregory Finch never could. She forced a smile when she walked in, even though her uniform clung to her like wet paper. "Mommy, you're home early," Cody said, running up to her with his crayon-stained fingers. "Yeah, baby," she said softly, kneeling to hug him. "Mommy's just off work early tonight." When he went back to draw, Jenna sat at the table, staring at the small pile of bills under a flickering bulb. Rent overdue. Power bill final notice. The silence pressed down on her until her chest ached. She whispered, "What am I going to do?" Hours passed. She applied for jobs online, sending her resume into the void. Each time she saw the box that said reason for leaving last job, her fingers froze. She typed management conflict and prayed no one would ask. The rain never stopped that night. At dawn, she dropped Cody at school, promising pancakes later even though she had no idea how she'd afford flour or eggs. She came home to quiet. Then an unfamiliar sound outside. A low, powerful engine. She looked out the window and saw the limousine. It gleamed black under the cloudy sky, polished like obsidian. Her first thought was, "They're here to collect something I can't pay." But when the door opened and a tall man in a gray suit stepped out, carrying a briefcase, everything around her seemed to pause. "Ms. Riley?" he asked when she cracked open the door. His tone was calm but firm. "I'm Benjamin Carter, attorney for a private client. He's requested to meet you." "An attorney," she stammered. I don't have any money." "If this is about the cafe, you're not in trouble," he said quickly. "My client wants to discuss what happened yesterday. He believes an injustice was done." Her breath caught. The old man. Could it be? But how? The ride in the limousine felt like stepping into another world. Leather seats, faint scent of cedar and coffee. Carter didn't speak much, only said, "You'll understand soon." Jenna's hands twisted together in her lap, anxiety churning with disbelief. When the car stopped, her stomach dropped. Fate. The Daily Grind. She saw another limousine parked outside. And beside it, standing tall despite the drizzle, was the old man. Only this time he didn't look frail. His back was straight, his posture commanding. The threadbare coat was folded neatly over his arm. Underneath, a tailored gray suit. The same blue eyes but now sharp, focused, alive. Carter opened her door. "Ms. Riley, this is Mr. Arthur Peterson." Jenna stepped out, frozen mid-breath. You're the man from yesterday." "Yes," he said with a faint smile. "And you, Ms. Riley, are the reason I'm standing here today." She blinked, unable to find words. "I don't understand." "You will," he said gently. "Come inside." The cafe bell jingled as they entered. The smell of espresso and disinfectant clung to the air. Gregory Finch looked up from behind the counter, irritation already forming on his face. "You again," he hissed. "I told you you're banned." Mr. Peterson's voice cut through like calm thunder. "Mr. Finch." The manager froze. Something about that tone made him straighten. Who are you?" "I'm Arthur Peterson. I own this company." The color drained from Finch's face. "What? That's the franchise." "Peterson Holdings owns the parent corporation," Arthur said. "Including this location. I've spent months observing this store incognito. Yesterday confirmed what I feared. Policy has replaced humanity here." A whisper ran through the room. The baristas stopped mid-motion. A customer nearly dropped her cup. Gregory stammered. "Sir, I was just enforcing regulations." "She violated." "She offered a cup of coffee to a freezing man," Arthur interrupted. "A man who happens to be me. Tell me, Mr. Finch, how much profit did you protect by humiliating her?" The silence was suffocating. Then came the click of heels. Arthur's assistant, Jessica Davies, stepping forward with a tablet. "Mr. Finch," she said coolly, "our overnight audit found multiple inventory discrepancies traced to your code. Thousands of dollars in missing supplies." Gregory's mouth fell open. That's not. Arthur's eyes hardened. "While you lectured my employee on theft, you were robbing my company. Security will handle the rest." Two suited guards entered quietly. Finch's voice cracked. "Wait, please. I was just trying to keep order." She gave it away. Arthur turned slightly toward Jenna. "Ms. Riley, do you wish to press charges?" Her heart pounded. Everyone was watching. For a second, she saw herself through their eyes. A tired woman who'd stood her ground and lost everything. Now she had power. Real power. "No," she said finally, her voice steady. "I don't need revenge. Just fairness." Arthur nodded approvingly. Spoken like a leader. He turned to Finch. "You're terminated. Effective immediately. Corporate will coordinate with law enforcement." As Gregory was escorted out, his face pale and desperate, the customers clapped quietly. Hesitant at first, then stronger. The sound filled the cafe like sunlight breaking through clouds. Arthur gestured toward the back table, the same one where Jenna had often seen him sit in silence. "Join me, please." They sat. For the first time, his expression softened completely. "My late wife loved this cafe," he said quietly. "She believed kindness was the only real wealth left in this world. I wanted to see if she was right." Jenna's throat tightened. "And was she?" "She was," he said simply. "You proved it. So I'm giving you what you've earned. I want you to manage this cafe, not as a worker surviving but as someone rebuilding it. Turn this place into what it should have been, a community." Her breath hitched. "Me? I don't even know how." "You know how to lead with compassion," Arthur said. "We'll handle the rest. Training, salary, everything. And there's something else." Jessica handed over a leather folder. Inside, legal documents. A trust fund in Cody Riley's name. Full education from elementary to university. Jenna stared at the pages, unable to blink. "Why?" she whispered. "Because my wife believed one act of kindness can rewrite a life," Arthur said. "Today you've rewritten two, mine and your own." Tears spilled silently down her cheeks. She reached out shaking and said, "Thank you." Arthur stood, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Don't thank me. Just pass it forward." The bell over the door rang again as he left. The limousines rolled away into the gray morning. For a long time no one moved. Then Jenna rose, still trembling, and faced her co-workers. "Ben," she said softly, "close early today. Everyone's paid. We reopen tomorrow with Heart." He nodded, smiling through tears. Hours later, as she wiped the counters, her cafe now, she looked out at the city. The same city that had ignored her yesterday now felt different. Softer. Possible. That night, she picked up Cody from the neighbor's apartment. He ran into her arms. "Mommy, you're smiling." She laughed, a sound she hadn't heard from herself in months. "Mommy got a new job, baby. Big one. And we're getting your winter coat tomorrow. The best one in the store." He grinned, hugging her tighter. From the window, the neon of the daily grind glowed faintly across the street. But tomorrow, it would be reborn under her name. The next morning, customers arrived to find a handwritten sign taped to the glass. Under new management. Kindness served daily. Inside, the same armchair where Arthur Peterson had once sat was now occupied by an elderly woman with a cane. Jenna set a warm mug in front of her. "It's on the house," she said with a quiet smile. The woman blinked, surprised. "Are you sure?" Jenna nodded. "Positive." Behind her, the staff worked with laughter and ease, the air no longer heavy with fear. Cafe was alive again. Outside, across the street, a man in a dark coat paused to watch through the glass. Arthur Peterson smiled faintly before walking on, unseen. And for the first time in years, Jenna felt the world wasn't closing in. It was opening up. The echo of her firing, once humiliation, had turned into something far greater, proof that decency still had power. But justice hadn't finished its work. A week later, headlines appeared across business sites. Daily Grind manager arrested for embezzlement and fraud. The photo showed Gregory Finch in handcuffs, eyes hollow, suit rumpled. Corporate spokespeople praised the anonymous tip that exposed him. Jenna saw the news on her phone during her shift. She didn't smile out of spite, just quiet satisfaction. "Guess karma finally clocked in," Ben joked. She poured another coffee and said softly, "Right on time." The cafe door opened again, and sunlight spilled across the floor. For Jenna Riley, every sound, the bell, the hiss of steam, the laughter of customers, was proof that her life, once broken, had been rebuilt stronger than before. And somewhere beyond the city noise, the spirit of a woman who believed in kindness smiled too. End of part 1. Next. What happens when compassion becomes the most powerful currency of all? The sun dipped low over the city, casting a soft gold hue across the cafe windows. Inside, Jenna Riley wiped down the counter, her reflection faint against the glass. The same place that had once broken her now carried her name on the door. No longer just a worker surviving day to day. She had become the heartbeat of something new. The air smelled of cinnamon and fresh hope, not fear. Outside, people she'd once passed by unnoticed now stopped to smile. Some came for the coffee. Most came for the warmth they felt the moment she said, "Welcome in." And every time she brewed a cup, she remembered the old man who reminded her that dignity begins with kindness, and that sometimes, standing up for what's right costs you everything before it gives you more than you dreamed. As she turned the sign to closed, Jenna looked at the empty chair by the window, the one where Arthur Peterson had once sat. The light caught the cup resting there, still half full, untouched since morning. She smiled. "We're doing okay," she whispered. Because kindness had not just changed her day, it had rewritten her life. If this story touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Click like, share it with someone who needs hope, and help Canada's Heartfelt tales grow, where every story reminds us that compassion is the greatest comeback of all.